Well, the world has sure gone nutty, buddy, even downright cruddy, buddy. Wish I missed the past, buddy, but there's still Buddycast. No, don't be naughty, go meet a buddy here on Buddycast.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the founder and host of Buddycast, Nick Sorensen.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of everybody's favorite show, Buddycast. I'm your host, Nick Sorensen, and thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you for joining us on this cold winter night, or warm wherever you are. But we have a very special buddy on board. We have my buddy, Brandon Wiley. How you doing, Brandon?
What's going on, my friend? I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Happy to have you on the show. As we were saying beforehand, it's been a while.
It has. Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here. Appreciate you.
Hey.
Good to see you again.
You too. Thank you for being a buddy on Buddycast. You're not a guest today. You're a buddy.
Absolutely. I'm here for it.
Yep. So, Brandon, you're the founder, the CEO of Openedeyes. Tell us about Openedeyes for our buddies out there that aren't familiar.
Yeah. So, Openedeyes is a 501c3 organization. I founded, as we were talking about, 10 years ago this year. So 2024 is our 10-year anniversary. And really, the idea of Openedeyes has evolved, obviously, so much over the course of time. But essentially, I originally started this organization because of the diversity issues, the equity issues, inclusive issues that we see in our society on many different layers, and as you'll see, as we continue to talk throughout this podcast here today, I'll describe more about what I mean by that. But it's essentially evolved into a consultant-based program, and we deliver programming that's basically focused around areas of leadership development, mental health and wellness, diversity, equity, and inclusion. So there's a number of different things that we touch on, and we work with so many different organizations to provide these type of topic-related content to faculty, staff, whomever is a part of that particular organization. And so it originally started for youth-based development, but it, of course, expanded and evolved into what it is today, working with groups like Erie Insurance and working with other organizations like EMTA and traveling out of Erie. We're not just an Erie-based organization anymore. We've been traveling around and doing programming. So there's a number of different things that encompass Openedeyes.
Nice. So take me back to the beginning. How did it all begin? Tell me about how the dream began.
So the idea behind Openedeyes started really. It conceptualized when I was in 6th grade. And I know that sounds like I'm taking it way far back. Like how did your 6th grade year come to this? Well, it's kind of like my story that I really talk about when I do my talks and I do motivational speaking. So this is kind of like my startup story. It all started when I was walking down the hallway of my elementary school. And as I'm walking down the hallway, this little girl behind me, she said, "Hey, you." She said, "What are you?" And I remember turning around and thinking to myself, "What do you mean, what are you? Do you mean who are you? Do you mean what my name is?" And she said, "No, what are you? You look different." And she said, "What's your racial background?" And I remember thinking, I have no idea how to answer your question. Like, my family is my family. My parents are my parents. I've never really paid attention to any differences in my parents. So when I went home that day from that experience, and I still couldn't answer the question because I didn't really know how to answer it. I went home and I asked my mom. Of course, I think it was one of those questions that she wasn't really prepared to talk about. And And she was just like, you're you. She gave me a very general, universal answer. Like, you're Brandon, and I'm proud of you. And so it was that loving, but I still felt a little uneasy. Like, what did this really mean? And it was then that I began to realize, oh, my parents are different. My father is African American descent. My mother is Italian and Sicilian, and so there was all these things I started to recognize, like, oh, I am different. And then it was almost like that little girl created a chain reaction, because after she asked me that question, it was almost like I started hearing it all the time. And so I began to develop a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, a lot of uncertainty and uncomfortability about who I am as a person and if I belong to this world. So that's really the original was the well, I didn't realize it until I was an adult, but that's really where everything came from. And so Opened Eyes was born out of just that, out of that idea of uncertainty about who I am, and finally coming to a grip in life or a point in life where I'm comfortable. And I had this dream when I was in grad school, and that's what brought me. I came to Erie. I went to grad school again in university, and I had a dream about writing a book and calling it that question, "What are you?" The question that I hated hearing, the most growing up, because I heard it all the time. But the dream really was a manifestation of, taking your struggles that you've had in life and reframing its meaning and making something positive. So it was almost like I found my vocation, my true calling in life. And from that dream, manifested the organization Opened Eyes.
Nice. Tell me about your core values.
So our core values are really centered around. So we have a model, and we call what we do. I don't necessarily call what we do diversity trainings. That's kind of to me, it's just a very older type of thought process of saying what it is that we do, because we do so much more. What I call what we do is culturally conscious conversation. And the reason I call it that is because one of our core values, one of our foundational conversations that we have, is about mindfulness based practice. So being mindful of yourself, being mindful of who you are as a person. And I think that's an element of diversity or diversity education that people tend to forget. You tend to hear, when you hear diversity, you immediately think about maybe race or sexuality or all of these other things. Very rarely do we really talk about understanding our diverse self. So mindfulness based practice is literally the building block behind everything that Opened Eyes does. And so if organizations come to us and they say, hey, we want a workshop or we want a conversation, we talk about, hey, you're going to go through this culturally conscious conversation 101, and we're going to talk about a number of different things like communication, active communication. What does it mean to be an active communicator? Listening to understand and not listening to respond. What it means to build trust with your coworkers, build trust with your whomever, your peers, your family, and then of course we branch off into other areas after that initial conversation. So somebody might come and say, you know what, we want to dive deeper into unconscious bias, or we want to dive deeper into servant leadership. How can servant leadership play a valuable part into our organizational construct? So there's a number of different ways to go about what we do, and that's why we really evolved into like this consultant based program, because we're trying to work with these organizations to really help them enhance their overall organizational wellness, as I like to call it. That's a big word that I use, organizational wellness, because what we do is about our overall wellness, and it's about advancing and enhancing our practices.
Love it. You mentioned earlier you got some community partners. Tell us about those community partners.
Yeah, we've been blessed and honored to work with a number of different organizations throughout our time. We've worked closely with Erie Insurance, which have been a wonderful opportunity and a wonderful partnership. EMTA, the Erie Metropolitan Transit Authority, or locally, have been solid partners and people that we've contract with and that we work with, and we provide these culturally conscious conversations to. The chambers, our local, the Erie Chambers, is another phenomenal organization in which we partnered with and conducted workshops and trainings. Another shout out that I have to do is the Nonprofit Partnership of Erie, which is another phenomenal organization that is very effective in. And I'm part of that board. I'm one of the board members of the nonprofit partnership. So I have the honor of serving for that organization as well. And that's the other thing too. It's this area has been so vast, and so many different. We've experienced so many different type of partnerships, and the educational level. We've worked with organizations vast and far. Wattsburg Area School District. We've recently, in November, we flew down to Philadelphia, and we worked with an organization or a school district there called Westchester, in the Westchester, PA area. So my team and I took a nice trip, and we spent 3 days down there, and we worked with them. So that's just been a fantastic type of opportunity. And I didn't get a chance to mention this too. By trade, I'm a licensed mental health therapist, and I've worked with the Department of Veteran Affairs for many years, and I work in suicide prevention. So mental health is just kind of an overall, part of who I am. And with these partners and with these people that we've collaborated with, everybody has people appreciate what we bring in regards to that mental wellness, mental health component. And I'm very proud of that in regards to what Openedeyes does with other organizations. So those are just a few partners that we've worked with. Oh, and I also want to shout out the Pennsylvania State Education Association, the Northwestern PSEA. We've worked with them in the past. Phenomenal organization. I could go on and on about all the people that we've worked with and that we're partners with, but everybody brings a certain element, and everybody brings a certain vibe to the table, and we're able to go to them, whether it's in their space or a mutual space, and provide these culturally conscious conversations.
Mm-hmm. And with those conversations, do you ever bring up things like, I know it's a lot of culture, but have you ever gotten into topics like different abilities, different things like that? Because that's one thing as a little person I find some people need today. Like, for me, for example, walking into a grocery store and hearing, it's understandable because they don't know, they may not know that well, but hearing the little girl go, "Mommy, why is that boy so small?"
Mm-hmm.
Or, even if it's, I hate to say it this way, it could be a Saturday moment of, happened to me on, I think it was Saturday or Sunday. I went to the grocery store to run an errand for my wife, and I walked by and a guy goes, "Hey, look, it's an M word." Things like that. Have you ever seen like the need for more diversity training, I should say, in the matter of different abilities?
Yeah, and that's and when we talk about taking diversity out of the box that it's placed in regards to, I think I mentioned before, we tend to just think about race. We just tend to think about sexuality, but we forget about these other things. And you gave some great examples. I talk a lot about persons with disabilities. Ableism is another ism that we tend to, ableism, we tend to forget about that as a part of the construct of diversity. And that could be persons with disabilities, both invisible and visible. And so, that's a part of some of the areas that we talk about. Now, here's the thing. I'm not an expert in every single area, and I don't try to sit here and act like I am. And I think that's one of the reasons, I'm a part of a demographic. Of course, there's a lot of intersectionality, and there's a lot of overlap, again, of various different topics that we could talk about. The idea here is to bring awareness to it. But I think that's one thing that I tell people. one area when people say, because my job and what we try to do is not only talk about the information and talk about the some concepts and terms, but we try to personalize the experience. Now that we know about this stuff, let's talk about what we can do to change it. And in order to do that, we have to change, again, our perceptions, our behaviors, because this is all behavior modification. Everything that we talk about, any construct that we formulate in our mind, it's learned behaviors. We learned it from somewhere, whether we're a little kid, whether we're an adult, whether we're whatever. We've learned our biases from somewhere. And this is another thing that I always tell everybody. Biases do not discriminate. We all have them. I have them. You have them. Viewers have them that are watching this. We all have biases to some degree. The idea is to become aware of those so they don't turn into something more. And there's a word that I always talk about, and that's microaggressions. Those subtle threats or those subtle things that we tend to not think about, and we say those things and we actually are hurting people. That is detrimental to any space that you're in. If you're saying things that is making somebody uncomfortable in the workplace, you're disrupting your workplace. If you're saying something that's disruptive in the streets, you're disrupting your community. I mean, that it goes far and wide. And so people don't necessarily always think about that. And it could be the smallest of things. It could be the big, but to you it might be small, but to somebody else it might be big. And exactly. I think that's where we're trying to get to. So yes, talking about all these things are very important, and to take diversity out of the box, to talk about these other areas like ableism or even ageism are important topics of conversation too.
Absolutely. You touched on some great points there. Number one, you're absolutely right. I tell people all the time, hate is learned. No one comes out of the womb and their first words are, I hate you, No, it's a learned behavior. It's learned by whether they watch their parents growing up, or they watched loved ones, just somewhere they've learned it from something, even if it's from watching TV or something. They've learned it from something. And you're absolutely right about the little thing. It is those little things. It's that little playful rip to you, like that little playful rip, like someone trips in the office and you go, walk much, or something like that. And to you, it's just something, a little comedy out of your day or something. To someone, maybe they're starting to deal with something. They're starting to deal with they're starting to deal with an illness or something that's affecting how they walk. They're starting to feel, and now they're just feeling more, like you said, that 2 seconds of what you just said can change, can be absolute. So you touched on a lot of great things there. The next thing I wanted to ask you, you mentioned you've got a team behind you. Let's take a minute and talk about your team. Let's give a little shout out to your team. Who's on the team?
What
are their roles?
Yeah, so Shannon Stewart, Kathleen Washington, Caesar Westbrook, George Morgan the third. Yeah, Caesar's. Yeah, Caesar's. That's my guy. He's great. And again, we have so many people that have helped. Shelby Malone has played a part. We have our core team, and then of course people that we have certain departments and certain areas that are for Ellie Vahey. I gotta shout out her too, and I might be forgetting others.
I know.
Yeah, Ellie. You know Ellie too.
I know the Vahey family very well. My dad grew up with her brother Joe.
Oh, okay, that's so wild. What a small. Well, it's eerie too. We know it's a small world here.
That's the fun part about Erie.
Isn't it great? That's why I do enjoy it. Everybody kind of has connected at some point in time.
You mentioned one name and two people turn around going, "Oh, you know that person."
You know that person. Yeah, you could be in the grocery store talking about somebody, and somebody might know who you're talking about. Yep. But yeah, Shannon Stewart is our director of programming, and she's also the co-founder of Openedeyes. She's a fantastic individual, and she does a lot of our program and our content development, putting all of our presentations together. Kathleen Washington, another dear friend of mine, but of course colleague, and she is the operations director. And she is just phenomenal at what she does. She keeps the organization intact. She does a lot of our proposals. She's always on the calls with me when we're doing our consulting calls. So she's taking the notes. She's putting together the proposal. We're sending the contract out. So she is a crucial part. Caesar Westbrook is our media guy. Our graphic designer. He does all of our t-shirt designs, and he does all of our videography, our photography. Caesar is just, the multi-talented guy. And if you are around Erie and you see a mural, more than likely Caesar was the guy who did it. And of course, there's a lot of other beautiful muralists out in the city. So I don't want to take that away from them. But Caesar is that guy, and I love all of them very deeply. And George, Morgan, Shelby, they have worked with our youth program called Lens. I don't think I mentioned that we have a youth program called Lens that focuses on areas of perception, active communication, and resiliency. So it's kind of a whole separate division. When we're asked to do student or youth programming, that's what we do. Ellie, has done a lot of our volunteer work in regards to helping us build planning together and our events. She's just an effective person. So again, I've had a lot of people surround me and who have been part of this ride for a very long time, and have put in a lot of time, a lot of free time over the years. Obviously, recently it's nice to be able to pay people back. Not that that's what they're in it for, but at the end of the day, this is an organization. We need resources. People have to feed their families, and we're still doing this. So it's a paid service. That's what this is. But nonetheless, our service is of quality, and our people are of quality, and we love what we do, and we love helping people, and we love helping organizations meet their organizational needs. So that's just a run through of my team. And again, the people, and it's not to even mention people who are just always there to support or wanting to support. Anytime they're like, hey, there's a volunteer opportunity, or hey, can I be a part of this? I'm always 1,000,000% open to, this being a community collective effort.
Love it. Well, tell my buddy Caesar I said hi, by the way.
I will most definitely. I will most definitely.
Yep. Now, this is what I call a glory story, kind of, in a way. Like, can you give me a time that doing what you do really made an impact on someone's life, and they showed it to you? Like, this is how you've helped me today.
Yeah, being a therapist and being in the space that I'm in, what I do is very interpersonal. It's very personalized. It's very intimate in regards of the content. It's very emotionally striking. So I've been in workshops and people have cried. I've been in workshops and people have come up and have told me, and I think this is probably a multiple thing. So the glory story is kind of like in multiple sections here, but it's always great for me when I'm done with the workshop, or I see somebody that was in one of my workshops or my talks out in the grocery store or out somewhere else. And just 100% honesty, I might not even have remembered who they were, but they remembered me or Openedeyes being there. And they've come up and they've said, what you said or what you did, or what you came in to talk about really impacted me and affected me in a very positive way. And it made me reflect. It made me think that I need to dig deeper. I get emails, I get follow-ups, people saying the same thing. So it's that element there. When people say, because I understand that I'm in this to, if I can impact one person, I know that sounds very cliche, but if I can impact one person, or I can help one person or one organization to some degree, just to give some type of resourceful information, and then I'm doing my job. The accolades, the reassurance. I'd be a liar to tell you it doesn't feel good. It feels fantastic, right? Like, it feels good to know that what you're doing is effective. So it's that element. It's that post conversation, that post workshop, or if I'm done doing a keynote presentation and someone comes up to me and they say, that really struck a chord with me. I'll give you one example specifically. And it was someone had, I talk a lot about trauma too, and I've had a number of individuals that will come up and say, I dealt with this growing up. I was abused. I was so I guess I'm not giving a specific story, but I'm giving multiple of the same. I was abused, or I had a hard time growing up in my family, and I've never really been able to confront that. But this made me think about that a little bit deeper. And now I want to get help. I want to get therapy. I want to talk to somebody more extensively about what I have going on. So when I hear those type of stories, it makes me feel good. And when I can recommend somebody to say, hey, if you want to talk to somebody, I can't, from a therapeutic standpoint, I have a lot of resources. Openedeyes isn't a counseling service, but what we do is we like to provide other resources for individuals. And that's one thing I'm big on. I don't like to just come in, do a training or a workshop, and then I'm done, and then we have no other connection. Like our job and our goal in life is to build rapport with one another. And in order to do that, we must invest into each other. And so I like to invest into people as much as I possibly can. And so those are the stories, and those are the things that I hear on a regular basis that make me feel like, you know what I'm doing is what I'm called to do. And I love every single bit of it.
Love it. Hey, you love what you do. You never work a day in your life. You know that?
That's right. I know that's right.
Mm-hmm. You're also part of the 814 podcast, correct? Or 814 Together podcast. My apologies.
Oh yes. That was a collaboration with Classy 100.
This is from Mary Beulah, by the way. I know you can't see her name, but
oh yeah, how you doing? You said Mary?
Yeah.
Hi Mary. Good to see you. Thanks for tuning in. Yes, I was. That was a collaboration I did with Classy 100, and big shout out to Brenda Savelli from Classy. Love her to pieces. She's a wonderful individual. And we ran a podcast for about a year, and that was actually where I met a wonderful woman by the name of Shauna, and I always give her shout outs in a lot of spaces that I'm in because I just absolutely loved her story. But she's the executive director for Voices for Independence. So as a future guest too, Nick, reach out to Shauna. She's fantastic. She's the executive director for Voices for Independence, which is focused around persons with disabilities. And we talked about what we were just talking about with ableism and people with disabilities or persons with disabilities. And that was an eye-opening experience for me. And I'll be the first to tell you again, I don't know everything about everything, but I went to her and had a conversation with her about her organization and to learn more about the population of persons with disabilities. And so she brought so much to my attention that I didn't know before. So it was just fantastic to meet her. But I met her through the podcast, and again, among many different other people that we had on as guests. So, but yeah, that was a very fun one. I'm actually going to be doing something similar at another time. So, but that was a great experience.
Nice. What did you talk about on the podcast, by the way?
We just picked different conversations. Like I said, a lot of the times we have the topics that Openedeyes discusses within our workshops. What I did was I chose a topic every month, and then we just basically correlated that topic with someone who might be specializes in that particular area. And so we called it 814 Together, a culturally conscious conversation, right? Let's keep in that same theme. And so we just brought people on. We had great conversation with them. We talked about that specific topic, whether it was about mental health and trauma, whether it was about racial trauma. Dr. Adrienne Dixon was on our show, Dr. Paris Baker. Trying to give a bunch of shout outs to people. Shannon Stewart, my team member, she was on there. And we talked again about a number of different things. Spirituality was a focus of conversation. So the 814 Together was really just an opportunity for us to showcase and talk about different content and topics that we talk about in our workshops, but bring it to a more of an organic space with individuals who might specialize in that field.
Love it. Absolutely love it. So,
yeah,
Buddy,
thank you.
Where can we learn more about Openedeyes?
Yes. So everybody can learn more. They can go to www.openedeyes.org. That's OPENEDEYES.org. And that is a brand new website that we just we reformulated and revamped our website. Of course, Facebook, Openedeyes, one word. You search for us. You can like our page, follow us. We put a lot of our content on there, and we put a lot of our programming and who we're working with on there, so people have an opportunity to see just the vast array of different and diversity of organizations that we work with. Instagram, if you people are Instagram users, OE_what are you? The letters R and U. You can search us on Instagram, find us, follow us. We post. We have a big year, Nick, this year. It's gonna be incredible. We have a lot of cool projects coming out. So if everybody wants to stay tuned and know what we have going on, follow us on all of our platforms.
You know, I got to ask, can you let us in on one of those projects?
Ooh, okay, I'll do it for you, Nick, because you're my guy. I appreciate you and I haven't seen. So we have a cool we have a roundtable discussion coming up that was produced by R. Frank Media. Shout out to Robert Frank, who is a local, and we filmed this at Gannon, and they're going to be about 30-minute roundtable type of gritty discussions with random members of the community or whomever else we so choose. So we're gonna be pumping this out this year, and that's gonna go up. The whole video is gonna go up on our YouTube page that we're gonna have, and so we'll be showing snippets of the conversation on our reels and things like that, so people can kind of get a little insight. But you'll have to go to the YouTube page to watch the full thing. But these conversations are gritty, they're fun, and it just kind of puts the culturally conscious conversation idea and topic into a different light.
Love it. That sounds
Yes, sir.
that sounds awesome, my friend. So,
Yes.
buddy, a question that I had earlier. You also mentioned you're working on another project that's kind of similar to a podcast. Is that something you're able to tell us about, or still in the works?
Those are preliminary stages. I wanted to. My idea and my goal is to, of course, we have our trade is to go in and conduct these workshops, and our trade is to come in and consult with businesses over a long period of time. But I like these personalized experiences where we can just really talk about, random things, and nothing's necessarily, not that everything's formal, but it's just more of a free flow conversation. When I did that with Classy 100, I absolutely loved just the personalized conversation about some of these topics. So what I'm going to be doing is going to be a little bit more gritty, maybe a little bit more, as I call it, after dark type of content, where we talk about some of these hardcore subjects a little bit more in depth. Again, I'm a mental health fanatic. It's my trade. It's what I do. So I want to incorporate a lot of mental health, talk about disorders, talk about, things of that nature. So we're in the very early stages of that process. But I also do want to plug something else in, if you don't mind. With that, one of the things that I'm going to be starting up soon is coaching, and that's another little plug that I'm giving you that I've been working on. So those services will be available very, very soon. So
Nice. You're going to be doing coaching?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. By request. It wasn't necessarily something I had in the back of my mind, but a lot of times we have people who want a more personalized experience. So those services are going to be hidden.
Wonderful. Keep me posted on the coaching. I might be interested in that.
I will definitely do that for you. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, buddy, I got two more questions. I ask this to all my buddies that come on the show. As I mentioned before, you're not a guest, you're a buddy. And my buddy, Jonas Kane, wants to know, in your own words, what does it mean to be someone's buddy?
What does it mean to be someone's buddy? You see this right here? It says intertwined. This was our theme last year. This was our Openedeyes theme last year. And what it means is intertwined means connected. And it means intertwined, integrated, interpersonal, love, respect, conversation, connection. That's my word, connection. To be connected to another person, to appreciate and respect another person, to lift them up. That's my definition and my idea of a buddy.
Love it. You're absolutely right. It's all about the connection. It's all about just connecting. Because one of my favorite quotes, and I've said this a dozen times on the show, C.S. Lewis says it best. Friendship is born when one friend says to another, "You too? I thought I was the only one."
Yes. I love that. I love that.
My final question for you tonight is what we call the Ultimate Buddycast Buddy Question. You ready for this one?
I'm ready.
For anyone out there who wants to start their own nonprofit, who wants to do what you're doing and just go out there and speak to their community, what is your advice to them?
Yeah. So, what I'm gonna say this. When I was in school, one of my biggest fears was public speaking. I hated it. I would get so sick and nervous that I would throw up before any type of presentation. When I came into this line of work and I was like, you know what? I'm going to have to get over my fears. I just had to take that step. And I like to say, become comfortable with being uncomfortable. Because everything that we fear is a barrier for what it is that we get that hinders our true potential. We have to get beyond that. It's not to say that fear is going to disappear, but we have to embrace it. So it's about embracing this uncomfortability. It's about stepping out of the box. It's about stepping out of your bubble and taking that leap. Because I'll tell you what, if I didn't take the leap, I would have missed all of these beautiful things that's happened in my life and the connections that I've made if I just stayed within my bubble. So be confident, embrace the uncomfortability, because you never know what's on the other side.
Mm-hmm. So step out of the comfort zone and remember that fear is a choice.
Yes, absolutely. And it's going to be with us no matter what, but just embrace it.
Absolutely. Well, Brandon, thank you for being a buddy on Buddycast. Thank you for opening our eyes to opened eyes.
Absolutely. I appreciate you, Nick. It's so good to see you. Thank you.
Thank you. Stick around for a minute. We'll chat for a minute afterwards. But before you go, I have one favor to ask you. Whatever you're going to do today, tomorrow, next week, next month, heck, even next year, promise me you're going to go out and you're going to go be someone's buddy.
I give you my word, Nick. I'm going to go out and be somebody's buddy. You can always count on me.
Absolutely. For all my buddies out there, this is my buddy Brandon from Openedeyes. Please check out Openedeyes. It's been an eye-opening experience for me. I'm glad I took the risk and said, "Hey, Brandon, come on the show. Tell me about this nonprofit." So thank you for being a buddy. All my buddies out there, I hope you have a wonderful evening. Remember to go be someone's buddy, and we'll catch you all next time here on everybody's favorite show.
Well, the days are going fast. Buddy, we've got to make them last. Buddy, before they've all gone past. Buddy, tune in to Buddycast. But don't feel none, it will make it, buddy, here on Buddycast.